Do you even know why we call a diesel engine a diesel? In the late 19th century, German engineer Rudolf Diesel gave himself a mission, creating an engine that would surpass the efficiency of steam engines, the dominant technology at the time, and so was born the diesel engine. In 1893, Rudolf Diesel came up with his first prototype but faced countless challenges, including issues with fuel injection as well as difficulties achieving the necessary compression. But things were about to get better. After spending 5 years refining his design, Diesel built in 1897 his first successful prototype running on peanut oil, showing a much higher efficiency than the contemporary steam engines. This would change the world forever. Completely transforming industries, Diesel's invention was soon adopted for various applications including marine propulsion, power generation, and eventually transportation and agriculture. But in 1913, Rudolf Diesel disappeared under mysterious circumstances while traveling to England. This is what caused farming giant Oliver's sad downfall. With roots dating back to 1855, Oliver established itself as a pioneer in the farming equipment business up until the 1950s, when things started to take a turn for the worst for the firm out of South Bend, Indiana. Facing intense competition from John Deere, International Harvester, and Allis-Chalmers, Oliver merged with the White Motor Corporation in 1960, and sadly, things would go downhill only from there, as seen too often in the corporate world. Clearly outpaced, Oliver started releasing machines before they were really perfected, such as the 1855 tractor, known for its engine issues. In '74, the Oliver name was dropped and every machine was labeled as White. In 1985, White decided to shut down the original Oliver Chilled Plow Works factory. The once booming Oliver buildings remained vacant until 2002, when most were demolished to make way for an industrial park. And that was it. The 630 is such a piece of history. Do you even know why? The paint was barely dry on its 20 Series tractors when John Deere released the 30 Series in 1958, a lineup that included the 630 model, a 44 horsepower unit replacing the 2-year-old 620 designation. The differences between the 620 and the 630 were mainly cosmetic, as the sides of the hood were given an angular bottom cut and painted solid yellow, while the numeric designation was moved up even with the brand lettering. Designed with an automotive-style layout, the 630 was made more comfortable than its predecessor thanks to a new seat design, and controls for the dual hydraulic system were cleaned up at the rear. But it's not why this series is so special. In 1960, John Deere discontinued the 630, which would also turn out to be the final year for the horizontal twin-cylinder engine, a company tradition since 1923. So who still runs one of these beauties? Did you ever hear about Satan's tractor? That's this one. The Farmall 666 was released in 1972, 1 year after the others in the 66 series. Why? The 656 was still selling so well that IH didn't want to interrupt production, so they delayed the successor's release. Available in gasoline or diesel and featuring a 5-speed transmission, the 666 tractor could be ordered with an optional torque amplifier and sold for right around $12,000, about $90,000 today. The 65 horsepower Farmall 666 came with most of the features offered on the larger 66 series tractor. Produced for 4 years, the model was discontinued in 1976 as it was replaced by the nearly identical 686. Carrying quite a controversial designation, the Farmall 666 was, for obvious reasons, often labeled as Satan's tractor or El Diablo by farmers. So who still runs one of these beauties? Let me know in the comments. This is how legendary manufacturer Allis-Chalmers was killed. Founded in 1901, Allis-Chalmers was a big name in various industries for well over 60 years. But after being part of the insane post-World War II boom in agriculture and construction, things went downhill for the manufacturer. Facing fierce competition in every sector in the mid-70s, Allis-Chalmers joined forces with Fiat to form Fiat Alice in 1974. But the company was still running behind technologically as the 1980s approached. Completely drowned in a climate of rapid economic change, Allis-Chalmers was forced to sell its lawn and garden equipment division in 1983. In '85, the company would get rid of 3 of its main business lines, including the farm equipment line. After selling its filtration business in 1988, Allis-Chalmers lost itself in the Agco-Alice venture, and by 1998, what remained of the manufacturing businesses were divested. In 1999, the company closed its Milwaukee offices, and that was it. So when was the last time you ran a 686? Released in 1976, the International 686 is now a classic machine made in a great era for tractors, where competition was so fierce among the top companies that all of them were kept under pressure to innovate and improve. Pretty identical to the 666 launched in 1972, the 65-horsepower 686 sold for $14,000 when it reached full production, the equivalent of $77,000 in today's standards. As close as it gets to perfection, the International 686 benefited from three prior ancestors. The simply designed tractor is known for carrying unbeatable hydraulics, an unkillable transmission, and a trustable engine. In 1979, IH replaced the 312 diesel engine originally powering the 686 with the 310 model. The following year, the tractor was discontinued after 6,000 units were produced. So who still runs this beauty? This is why the 4020 is possibly the best tractor ever. Introduced to market in 1963, John Deere's 4020 remains 6 decades later one of the best pieces of equipment ever produced. Pure classic, the 4020 is still one of the most talked about tractors ever. But why? Way ahead of its time in terms of safety, John Deere's 4020 featured a rollover protection structure which went from the top of the cab into the rear axle, protecting the lives of thousands of farmers who operated on steep terrain. On top of being one of the most reliable pieces of iron ever designed, the 4020's most innovative feature was its power shift transmission, a technology developed in the 50s, allowing for movement between gears without the clutch. The 4020 also provided operators new comfort thanks to updated features including deluxe seats and hydraulic controls, replacing cumbersome levers at the front of the cab. And this would pave the way for future designs. What a classic. So who still runs a good old Fordson Super Major? Part of Ford's popular Major series, first introduced in 1945, the Super Major tractor was launched in 1960 and was designed as a successor to the highly popular Fordson Power Major, released in 1958. Very similar to its Power Major predecessor, the Fordson Super Major tractor was built in Dagenham, England, and was powered by optional diesel or gasoline power plants rated at 54 horsepower and delivered 47 PTO horsepower. The tractor was imported into the United States as the Ford Super Major 5000 to provide a large diesel tractor to Ford dealers, but the machine had no relation, other than the name, to the later Ford 5000 that followed it. Representing the culmination of years of improvements, the Fordson Super Major was discontinued in 1963 as it was replaced by the short-lived New Performance Super Major, right before Fordson tractor production was phased out in 1964.